So my name is Alain Karma. I'm a professor in the physics department at Northeastern University. I'm also the director of a Center for Interdisciplinary Research on Complex Systems. And we have many different projects going on. We have a whole set of research involved in understanding the properties of materials, predict materials behavior, how you make materials, and how also they perform under external forces, how they break, how you make them, how they break. And we have a whole other set of projects involved with biomedical research, trying to predict the mechanisms of cardiac arrhythmias in the onset of chaos in the heart, which is responsible for sudden cardiac deaths, a leading cause of death in the industrialized world. So you could think that materials and the heart have very different projects, but actually they're unified by the fact that both of these problems involve understanding systems behavior, complex systems, and also out of equilibrium when they are, not an equilibrium system is just a pot of water sitting still, but when you make materials and you break materials, materials are very far from equilibrium, and life itself is outside of equilibrium. So the techniques, mathematical models and computational models that are used to study both of these topics actually have a lot in common.
My name is Markus Buehler. I'm a professor in civil environmental engineering. My work deals with multiscale modeling of materials and coupling these multiscale models and simulations with experimentation, also using the things we've learned in building new materials, using, for example, rapid manufacturing techniques like additive manufacturing. So we can go immediately from a design of a material in a computer to an actual physical artifact that we've made. And the vision in our group is to being able to do this very quickly and in a closed loop. So we can design the chemistry and we can design the structures from the nanoscale to the macro scale. We can design this for functions, for multiple functions that we like to have. And we'll then be able to realize a material through things like 3D printing, microfluidics, self-assembly, and then many other techniques that actually has these functions.
We're very excited about this opportunity to collaborate. Markus and I actually have been discussing joining efforts to try to tackle a very important problem, which is understanding the fracture of biological materials. Biological materials have very unique properties. They are very strong for their weight. So if you take, for example, spider silk is much stronger than steel for its weight. How does nature achieve to make materials which are so strong? And how can we learn from the secrets of nature to actually design biomimetic materials, which can give rise to stronger structures, lighter structures? So I'm going to illustrate to you some of the method we use to describe the propagation of cracks in biological materials and other materials. And I'll show you a couple simulations that illustrate how complex crack paths can be. This first simulation is actually showing you a phenomenon called micro-branching, which is the fact that when a crack propagates, and you see that sometime when you drop an object, it doesn't stay as a single crack, it branches and creates new cracks. So this is actually here phase field simulations. You're seeing the sort of a strain field, how much the material is being deformed, and actually here this advancing crack, it's actually emitting wave, branching and oscillating. And this computational technique, these phase field models, capture this dynamics very well. Another level of complexity, this simulation was just in 2 dimension. Of course, reality is in 3 dimension. And when you have the crack that propagates now in 3 dimension, you can imagine if you're slicing like a material, the crack becomes actually a surface that was going to advance. And this surface doesn't need to remain planar. This is now a simulation of what happens when a crack is propagating in a medium in which it is both under tension and also is being sheared, which is being deformed parallel to the crack plane. So the crack actually undergoes an instability, which is quite complex, and segments into daughter cracks. So you can see you start from a single parent crack, and you produce this daughter crack. This is recapitulated in this sequence of snapshot that shows from top to bottom the evolution of the original parent crack, the instability of this crack that starts to form the daughter crack, then further competition between these branches, and then finally this segmented crack. A crack that propagates like this and actually segments into daughter crack needs a lot more energy to advance. So that means that the material is a lot tougher because you need more energy to break it. So an interesting idea is how we can design materials that where we'd design the structure of the material so as to promote this instability and make a tougher material. Biological materials often show cracks that don't propagate in a simple rectangular manner, but segment and undergo much more complicated paths. So, nature has also engineered materials that have this property, and we're trying to understand the relationship between the structure of the materials and the instabilities of the crack, which I think really holds a lot of the secrets of why biological materials are stronger.
So the work in the seed fund project we have is, in fact, is very complementary, right? So the work we do deals with the atoms and the particles. Alain's part of the work deals with the more continuum macro scale description of failure, and the two are very important, right? So the molecular scale teaches you fundamental mechanisms of failure, but it's really hard to model something like an earthquake in the scale of kilometers. So Alain's methods can take our insights and the insights into the mechanisms and how much energy we need to break a small piece of material, and what direction cracks might take under different loading conditions. So cracks might decide to go left or right or straight, and that depends on the loading conditions. So we can understand these fundamental mechanisms and patterns, and we can use those as a basis to train Alain's methods, which operate at a larger scale. And now, by feeding these insights across these from small scale to a large scale, we can bridge the scales, and that's what we typically call multiscale modeling. The beauty of this is that we can in fact understand the effect of chemical changes which happen at the scale of a couple of angstroms or nanometers, right? On a fracture mechanism, it happens maybe on the scale of inches, meters, or kilometers. So these kinds of scale transitions are what our work really tries to build for. And there's quite a bit of method development involved. So we develop new methods in this project. We're trying to link the scales, validate the method, right? If you create something new, you want to make sure it actually works and it's sound and it can be tested, right? So we test the model. And then we apply to new things, and the new things are the sort of thing that typically I, as an engineer, would be most interested in, is to see how can we make better materials that are stronger and tougher and more durable, more robust, more resilient. Or sometimes we like to create materials that are actually very fragile. So imagine having a material in a bumper in a car, or an armor material in an armored vehicle. You might want this material to break and dissipate as much energy as possible, right? And so we can tailor material properties for different applications by designing from that molecular scale across these different levels in the materials organization, all the way to the continuum scale that Alain can do.